Hey, what is up everyone? Welcome back to another gunpla review, and today I'm going to be taking a look at the Master Grade Gundam Vidar. Now this is a kit that's essentially been 10 years in the waiting for, but finally it is here, and I can tell you, it is absolutely awesome. Now before I get into anything, I will mention that this right here is the review. If you want to see the build of this particular kit, I did put that up as a separate video, so the full in-depth build of this kit right here. It is incredible. You can build it frame first, then put the armor on afterwards. It is fantastic. I will also mention that I did actually put a little bit more into this after that initial build. So I did panline it with the poor type pan liners, the type that fill in the lines for you. There's a lot of beautiful pan lines on this kit to fill in. I did use the included decals as well, pretty much all of them if I'm not mistaken. The instructions doesn't say to use everyone on the sheet, so I just went with what was in the instructions. And finally, I will mention that this video right here would not have been possible without those awesome people over at Hobby Link Japan, so link is down there in the description. Now let's check out the fully finished Master Grade Gundam Vidar. And finally jumping into the aesthetics, and here we are. Here is the Master Grade Gundam Vidar in all of its glory. Now I will mention once again that this is not what it looks like straight out of box. So flashing back in time a little bit to the last video, which was the build, this is what the kit looks like out of box. I guess it is a little bit more anime accurate than what we're seeing right now, because in the anime it won't have all the pan lines, the decals, all of that stuff. Like I said, I did pan line it, I decaled it, I also hit it with a single coat of Mr. Hobby matte top coat. I did want to do a second one eventually, but essentially I just wanted to get the video done. So when it comes to the overview of the Gundam Vidar, it has definitely stepped it up a little bit since what we would have seen with the Master Grade Gundam Barbatos. There's a lot more panel lines on this, a lot more overall detail, but at its core, like I mentioned in the build, it is pretty much essentially the same kit. The overall frame is the same, just with some cosmetic new aspects that allow the armor to attach on, and one strange change up in the shoulders where the pegs are now in the torso as opposed to in the arm, so they have been reversed. The colors on this look phenomenal. Again, this has been matte top coated. This just tends to dull down the shines and kind of makes it pop a little bit better under diffused light, but otherwise it's pretty much essentially what you're going to get. Possibly for the first time ever, this is a Ipe Gyobyu design that I actually feel has the Ipe Gyobyu feel to it. The greebles, the raised parts, the overall design, the panel lines, the color selection on the decals, everything just does that Gyobyu flair perfectly. When it comes to the silhouette, it's that typical awesome Iron Blooded Orphans, huge shoulders, narrow waist, flared out skirting armor styled overall look. It looks great. It's been retooled since what we would have seen with the full mechanics kit, which we'll see soon. Actually, why don't we see it right now? So anyway, there's a side-by-side. The Master Grade is on the left, the full mechanics is on the right. And the biggest thing you'd notice probably straight away, besides the fact that this one, the full mechanics, can barely stand up, is the color. The color on this version is a little bit on the more muted sort of side compared to this one over here, which is extremely blue. Now first off, I will mention that an element of this might look like it's to do with the matte top coat, but I'm just going to pop in the actual runner right here. So this is the color right off, well, the runner, and it's very similar to this right here. It's just a little lighter looking because that is kind of what matte top coat does. However, you might be thinking it might come down to your own personal preference, which of these particular shades of blue that you like, and that is true to some degree, but as an absolute Ipe Gyobyu fanboy, I have to say, this is the one that is accurate. It's not meant to be that vivid, it's meant to be sort of muted. So this one definitely wins out there. Now scooting these over ever so slightly, there is one other Chimaris out there. Actually, switch them around. Today's one in the middle, this one over here. There is also the high grade as well, which obviously is a whole lot simpler. A lot of the gray sections on it are just stickers, and there is no red inside of the actual thrusters on the knees. Overall, without a doubt, the best one is the Master Grade by a massive margin, as you would expect, as a lot of time has passed, and the tech has just gotten better. Anyway, so you can make up your own mind which is better. I'm going to actually give them all a little bit of a spin. On the left will always be the Master Grade version. On the right, first off, is going to be the full mechanics variant. So you can have a kind of look around the kit yourself to see which is better. The full mechanics kit is not a terrible kit by any margin, but as far as gunpla goes, it's definitely towards the bottom. overall quality wise, the kit will need a lot of work out of box to look good, whereas the Master Grade essentially looks good right out of box anyway. Even proportion wise, design wise, just everything wise, it is the far superior kit. When it comes to the high grade kit, this is a high grade Iron Blooded Orphans kit, so that does mean it does come with a bucket load of issues. It's got tons of stickers, it has problems standing up, same with the full mechanics really, and again a kit that will need a lot of love out of box just to be good. The Master Grade is essentially out of box perfection. So slapping the Master Grade Vidar down beside the official art, and as you can see, it's essentially 100% anime accurate with a little bit of detail on top. If you don't panel line the panel lines or add on the decals, you won't have that level of it and it'll look more like the line art, but color for color, this is essentially it, with some nice chromed parts to bring out the details. Overall, absolutely beautiful. So speaking of details, this does pretty much everything the Master Grade Barbatos does, and then some. The only thing it doesn't really have is the cool clear parts up in the shoulders the Barbatos had, but those were specific to that Gundam. Like we saw in the build, this is a fully detailed up inner frame. You can also put on inner frame specific decals that are included with this kit too, so you can do that if you want to display it just as the frame. This kit does feature some very nice model kit tech. We do have bits coming from the layers below to create those black line sections. The same goes for some of the grey sections you see on the darker sections of this coming up from the inner frame parts. Same in this upper leg armor section and all over the kit in lots of nice places. I will also mention, you can't see it right now, but we do have fully color separated eyes. They are in clear pink underneath, same with the rear head camera. A beautiful clear piece in pink with a sticker underneath it to reflect back the light round back. Dual layers to the verniers on this red on the inside, armor colored on the outside, and we have all of those beautiful pistons all over the place we would have seen with the Master Grade Barbatos 2. Panel lines all over the place. For those of you who love panel lining, overall it just looks absolutely beautiful. So also in here with the Vidar, we do have some color correcting stickers. Now, I use some of these, not all of them. There's a lot of choice. Well, kind of some choice. As for the ones I did use this small one right here, 6, that is inside the cockpit. You can't really, well, let's have a see if you can actually see it. Basically, it's Ein in the back here. You can't really see it. I'll just stick in a bit from the build video so you can see. Those are just stickers. I don't really recommend them. Just paint those bits in metallic red. It will look a lot better and it'll take 2 seconds. Then we've got that big long one right there. That is the one that is around here on the back, which is extremely effective in underneath that nice clear pink part. That circular one that's used, that's actually on the rifle inside of the scope. I use the eye stickers right here. Again, this is just for the review because they pop better under lighting, as you can see right there, especially when matte top coat gets sprayed on them. It seems to diffuse the light even better and it looks a little less harsh and just looks very nice. That's why I use them, but in underneath there is some clear plastic parts if you do prefer that. Personally, I do prefer that myself. It's just it doesn't look as good in thumbnails or in videos. That's why I went with them. There is also another version, which is this one, that has some black for around the eyes, so if you want the mask section to be in black, darken that up. That's the head camera right there, right beside it. I didn't use it, and as you can see, that it doesn't pop as much as the eyes. It's actually really hard to try and get the, well, clear plastic to actually show up. On video, you can kind of see it right there, so that's usually why I opt for the foils. The last 2 right there, which is number 9, those are for sticking on the end of rapier blades to show them post-purged. That apparently is the point of those. Won't be using those. So on top of that, we also did get this right here, which is a sheet of decals. As you can see, I have used most of them, not all of them. The designs are quite nice, especially because it does kind of reflect this image once again right here. Ipe Gyobu did use a lot of pink on it. He used nice contrasting colors in his works, and instead of actually doing the panel lines like we see in the art, they went for some nice kind of pinstriping here and there. So they are a mix of white and pink, and you don't actually use them all. One that I find is kind of interesting is this one right here. Now, I don't know how legible this is on camera, but it says Chimaris, so that's pretty cool for using on the frame if you want to. It's not actually a set one for on the frame. And we also have these ones down here, which is, of course, the family crest you can use as well, but I guess you wouldn't use that or the Chimaris because, you know, meant to be incognito. As for how the decals look when attached, the designs are impeccable. They look very nice. They blend in with the design nicely. The pink pops in a very Ipe Gyobu sort of way without kind of getting a little too over the top. The white works really nice as well, and we have some subtle ones, say in Vidar, etc. all over the place. They are nice. Placement is nice, but the only down point is the usual kind of complaint. These are sticker style, so you're always going to see the border. Even if you try to top coat it to kind of blend them in a little bit, it will. They're not really noticeable from a distance. They'll always still have that bit of an an edge on them. As of right now, there is no water slides for this kit per se available, but it would have been nice to have them in the box or on release day. But overall, nice design, and they do really gel the final piece together. It looks phenomenal. On to the size comparisons. So jumping on into the size comparison, first off there it is side by side with your average size Gundam, which is the RX 78-2. So as you can see, the Vidar is quite tall, especially because of those heels, but it's a big old Gundam. However, not quite as big as the Master Grade Narrative Gundam Vidar. Next up, the Full Mechanics Gundam Aerial, Master Grade Zeta Gundam Vidar, Master Grade Sinanju Stein Vidar, Narrative version, and finally beside the Master Grade Gundam Barbatos Vidar. Now, I don't have the standard version around at all, this is the Chinese exclusive one, because my standard version has the option parts attached, and it's the Master Grade Gundam Barbatos 6th form. I really need to get around to building a standard version of the 4th form. So now jumping into the accessories, and here's everything that comes with the Master Grade Gundam Vidar. What we're getting here is the rifle, pair of pistols, the burst saber, whole bunch of alternate blades and extra blades for the burst saber, 6 alternate fingers, that is 8 including the widespreads attached onto it, a tiny little Vidar himself, an alternate section for using inside of the cockpit. And speaking of alternate parts, as the frame is based off of the Master Grade Gundam Barbatos, there is a few leftover parts. For example, some of the gold sections like the cockpit and front of the shins off of the Barbatos, these are left over in that kind of coppery gold color. Some parts of various aspects of the frame, including the feet right here, those have been changed. There's 2 of this particular one right here, so there is leftover feet bits. Same one does come to the lower leg, so we do have some lower leg sections. Again, these are just the various bits that have changed because of the new armor. However, what is worth noting is we do have the old joints for the, at least the shoulder up here. So the shoulder has a different joint for connecting to the body and a different joint for the shoulder armor. So you can actually change that onto it and use the arms of this with the Barbatos, it seems. Next up, the skirting armor. The skirting armors are different and attached differently than they did on the Barbatos, so those are left over. And finally then we've got some head and torso sections. As far as I know, the entire head of the Barbatos inner frame is here, but the clear parts. This seems like it might be the shoulder aspects, if I am not mistaken. So you might actually be able to modify it to have these standard shoulders. However, these seem to be the shoulders. No, wait, these are the torso shoulders. So yeah, I guess both parts are here, so you can probably modify it to be used like that. Again, some more torso parts of the Barbatos, and as far as I know, you can't build the entire frame of... Actually, you probably can build the entire Barbatos frame out of this color if you wanted to. If you wanted to. So first up in here, we've got the hands. Now these are the more newer Master Grade style hands, which have swappable fingers and a movable thumb. Overall, the sculpt is absolutely fantastic. Nice, sharp, pointy fingers. Just in comparison, there is the Full Mechanics version. This is set in position. The fingers are a little bit, well, bit more on the blunt side, and there really isn't that much detail on them. Swapping the fingers on here is easy. Just pop off the fingers just like so, and then pop on whatever alternate one that you want to use. The alternate fingers included in here are trigger fingers, standard holding hands, fists, and the wide spreads. Next up in here, we've got the 1/100 scale pilot figure of Vidar, and a little bit of a pose with the hand extended, which makes it a little bit nicer than your average pilot figure, which these days, I guess, is nothing. So next up in here, we've got the base adapter. So this is a simple, fairly standard-ish style. It pops on underneath here, but it does pop in from the back, which does make it nice and secure. Stand is not included, but attaching it onto a stand just works like this right here, and it does hold on incredibly well, which is always important. So no matter what kind of aerial pose you get it into, it's not going to slip. So the first of the weapons in here is the rifle. Now this is actually deceptively simple looking at first, but is very nicely detailed. Pop in the Full Mechanics version in side by side there. You can see that they are similar, but there is a lot more detail on the Master Grade, as you would expect. So all those darker little details along its length at first might look like they are just kind of panel-lined aspects, but they're not. There is actually a darker piece of plastic running through the outside that is coming up through the lighter grey outside, so all that detail is actually present. This side section has been really nicely designed as well. There is a sticker well in beyond the actual clear pink side, so it does reflect out light very nicely. On top of that then, it does have this very cool feature of actually having a fully removable magazine that just pops out just like so. There is the detail in the top, there is the side, and one thing I always love about Iron Blooded Orphans is all the weapons are actual physical weapons, not beam weapons like in most Gundam series, which is always very cool. There is no spare magazine in here anywhere, you've just got the one. Attaching this onto the hand is super simple. You just pop it into the trigger fingers just like so, and it attaches then onto the hand. Now I will mention, this isn't the greatest hold ever. It tends to pop a lot. Getting into a pose is nice and simple, works out very well. Again, I will mention it does pop out the hand very easily. Thankfully, it's not too big of a weapon, so it's not that big of an issue. And that right there is what the Gundam Vidar looks like, holding the rifle in a bit of a pose. When this is not in use, you can just pop it off like so. There is a tab on either side of it, you can see here, and there is 3 slots in the side of the side skirting armor you can pop it into at multiple angles, and you just pop it in like so, and it holds on extremely well, and looks like that right there. So next up in here, we've got the pistols. Again, nicely detailed. They don't have the cool inner layer that we had with the rifle, giving it 2 tones of color. These are just all in the one color, 3 parts. That's a side part, and another little bit for this section up top, which does give us a cool little slide action, which pulls back like this right here. So you do have that little bit of a slide, which is pretty damn cool. So when it comes to attaching the pistols, it's exactly the same as the rifle. They attach into the same hands and pop in just like so. That is what they look like attached. Very, very nice. And of course, we have to get it into that iconic pose from the anime, where it looks absolutely incredibly awesome. These pistols are nice and nicer than we've ever seen before. So when it comes to storing the pistols, they can be stored on the inside of the front skirting armor, almost like he's got his pistols shoved right down his knickers. In order to do that, you need to slide them down from the top just like so. This can take a little bit of getting used to, especially when the front skirting is attached, but it does have a cool kind of quick draw mechanism to them where you can just pull them out, they detach, and you're ready to go. Once you actually get used to the mechanism, it's easy to slide them back in, just like this. So the last of the weapons in here we have is the Burst Saber, which is very simple compared to the last 2. It is just the kind of rapier handle up top, the blade right here. So when it comes to attaching the Burst Saber into the hand, it's the same as every weapon so far, except you're not using a trigger finger holding hand, you're using a regular holding hand. This is what it looks like right here, and we do have a whole bunch of blades, 8 in total. 6 are for storing in the side sections. Attack on Titan style, they have a little bit of a peg section towards the top, and they pop in just like this. The other variants are these 2 right here, which are the purged versions. So these are them when they're basically shot off the Burst Saber's handle. As for the reloading mechanism, this is really cool. When you've got nothing on the actual blade, you can have the Vidar reach all the way around to those scabbards on the side, plug it into one of the blades, then you can slide back this whole section right here, just like out of your Japanese anime. Basically, then you can just pull it out just like so, slide it closed like this, and that is so awesome. Nice gimmick. So next up and finally onto the articulation. Now, overall the build strength on this kit is quite good. It does have that signature Iron Blooded Orphans kind of bounce to it, where a lot of the parts kind of just jiggle. I guess it's just kind of the design. They're not really going to fall out of position per se. The hip joints could be a little bit better, definitely. And these verniers back here are a fucking nightmare. I mean, they just pop off from absolutely nothing. They're just a tiny little clip like so, which is a terrible design. They just hold on barely, and if, you know, over time they're going to get even looser really. However, on the whole, it will hold any pose you put it into, and it is rock solid besides those couple of factors. Anyway, usual pose. So when it does come to the usual pose in here, it got into the position absolutely fantastically, but not without a couple of issues. First off, the skirting armor is very blocked from moving when the pistols are in there, so you're going to have to take them out to get full posing potential out of this. On top of that, there is some loose parts, like I mentioned, the verniers around back, and when you actually start to hyperextend the shoulders, they are only held on by a single little peg, so it means they are inclined to kind of pop off too. Besides that though, the range of motion at all of the joints is spectacular. It's very nice. The only thing that does feel a little bit loose and might need tightening up is the hip joints. Besides that though, it does spectacularly, and this right here is what we get in the end. Again, I did have to take a couple of bits off, these fell off, but overall it does fantastically, and it's got a good, decent center of balance. It's not back heavy or anything like that. It does well. Very nice. So now going through the full articulation on the Master Grade Gundam Vidar, first off we've got an absolutely colossally huge range of motion at the neck up and down for those flying and space flight attacking poses. Great side to side as well, and overall nice fluid, almost humanoid motion going on here. Moving over to the shoulders, we've got some nice shoulder joints in the actual torso itself, allowing the arms to move back and forward. We've got up and down as well, but it does kind of clash a little bit with the shoulder armor. When it pops off, you can see there's great range of motion here, but the shoulder can get in the way a little bit. The shoulder can move up and down independently to the arm, but sometimes gets in the way. full 360 movement at the shoulder all the way around, full 360 movement at the bicep swivel up there, great bend at the elbow, very, very nice 2-point bend, and of course around back we do have that extending piston gimmick, which is always nice. The wrists on these kits, or this kit right here, is fantastic. Got full rotation all the way around. We've got this nice outward extension, so that'll be great for those stabbing poses, and we do have side to side outwards as well. This isn't a ball joint, it's just a nicely designed joint. At the waist now, and as you'd expect from something with such a tiny snatched waist, it can move forward and back extremely, extremely well. Pistons move inside of there as well. They move a lot when going side to side like so, very impressive. The rotation is a little bit on the limited side and can only go from here to here. Front skirting armor may seem like standard ball joints at first, but there is little cutouts so they can fold in nicely to keep them out of the way. The side skirtings are ridiculously impressive. Iron Blooded Orphans kits tend to have a lot of issues with their big giant side skirts that tend to fall off all the time. That is not the case here. Got an almost 2-point crank style joint, which has a ball joint in it, so you've got a little bit of movement at the actual top of the joint. It can swing forward and back hugely. 2 little slightly extending thruster sections on the side. Round back we do have a premium butt flap, so it will stay out of the way of the kicks. And speaking of the kicks, at the hips you've got a little simple dropping mechanism inside of the hips that just moves up and down like so. Simple but effective. What we get then from the kicks is this huge kick up to the front and back. You could almost spin it the whole way around if it wasn't for the side skirting armors. The kick out to the side for the splits is pretty much all the way. It's all you could ever ask for. We've got rotation, not full but partial at the upper leg. The knee bend is fantastic, and we do have a sliding mechanism here too for that thruster around back. The thruster might fall off sometimes if you're handling it a little bit funny, but during normal posing it will not. It just slides forward and back gracefully like so. Down at the ankles, these are those typical Iron Blooded Orphans side to side, drum style rolling kind of tilt to them. Very, very, very nice. We got forward and back here too, extending a piston, and we do have those Vidar blades down in the heel, which just fold out like so, and one in the toe, which folds out like this. When the toe in is out, we do see that we do have some nice toe articulation here, which is quite nice. Around to the back now for the backpack, and the wing binder sections are attached on by ball joints, so it does mean they can swing all the way around like so, and there is a bit of a tilt and pan to them as well. I'll also mention that the pegs for attaching this onto the backpack actually have molded detail into them, which is a very nice touch without a single doubt. Premium. Overall, the articulation is fantastic. There we go again. That is what the test pose looked like. Some parts might pop off, but that's more of a user issue than the actual kit itself. Just pay attention to what you're doing and they won't come off. They hold on rock solidly otherwise. So anyway, that right there is it for the review of the Master Grade Gundam Vidar, and this is X-Platinum tier. Now, I will mention that would have been pretty much Gundarium tier on the old ranking system. This kit definitely excels and gets full marks, full EX marks for the aesthetics. This thing looks so fantastic. This is essentially like a 2-layered build, and you can always see the second layer underneath, which is the Gundam frame. On top of that, it's even pushed the envelope a little bit further than what we would have seen with the Master Grade Barbatos. As well as seen into the inner frame inside, we've now got that cool plastic layering that Bandai does. So on all of the darker black plastics, we've got grey coming through from under layers. On all of the blue plastic, we've got black coming through from underneath, and on top of that, this is a panel liner's dream. The only real down point is the fact that it doesn't come with water slides, which is usual for a Master Grade, but even if they're sold on the same day, that would be great. Please! Technical detail everywhere, those great Gundam pistons. Overall, this just looks phenomenal in every pose, catches the light beautifully. Oh yeah, fully color separated eyes too. When it comes to the articulation, this is absolutely ridiculously awesome. You're going to get all of your Gundam Vidar poses without a doubt. The only reason it doesn't get 5 out of 5 is it isn't really that crazy extreme when it comes to articulation, but the articulation that we do have here is very, very nice. Some armor bits get in the way a tiny little bit, but not as much as we would have seen with older Iron Blooded Orphans kits. This can pose up a storm and rarely does anything fall off. Rarely. The lowest marks this kit got is for accessories, mainly because there isn't really a whole lot going on in here, and everything that is in here is fairly average. All of the Vidar's equipment is in here, which is a super big plus. The rifle is very nicely designed, it does have a removable magazine, but doesn't do a whole lot more. The pistol's also nice, and the Burst Saber is nice too. The coolest aspect about the Burst Saber is the cool replaceable blades and those sliding gimmicks on the sides of the Gundam, but I guess they're more of a Gundam thing than an accessories thing. Finally then, when it comes to the build on this is one of the funnest builds around. The two-tier build of building the inner frame first and then building on the armor is so refreshing and so fun, especially because you do get to see the majority of that inner frame once finished. The only reason it does lose a point is because it isn't rock solid when it's finished. It does have some loose aspects in the hips and on the armor parts that will need a little bit of effort to kind of fully lock in. It does have that bit of Iron Blooded Orphans bounce too, but overall, quite good overall. Again, super fun to build though. Honestly, when it does come to the final word about this kit right here, if you're a fan of Iron Blooded Orphans, get it. Full stop, get it. If you're a fan of just master grades in general, get it too, because it is a phenomenal kit. Again, the kind of points that are just taken away from it is just room to grow for the tiering system, really. It is essentially a perfect master grade and worth every single penny. Anyways, always, thank you so much for watching. I got mine here through Hobby Link Japan, link is down there in the description, and as always, I will see you next time. As always, I cannot finish this video right here without thanking every single one of you guys for watching, and special thanks to those who support me on both the channel memberships as well as on Patreon, including Simon, Scotty Thomas, Abraxas, RG59061, Joe, Vanfon, and Caleb Engelhardt.